Toboso Yana is the creator of Twisted Wonderland. In this 2023 interview from the Apple Store, she explains the game's message, Pomefiore's designs, Diasomnia's designs, Harveston event designs and Tamashina-Mina event designs. Happy endings in Disney works come from righteous actions and love, but I believe that the villains are characters who do not get saved during the story. That is why, through this game, I want to portray the message that even if you get beat up all the way to a bad ending, you can grow from it and live your life without feeling discouraged. Acting lame, obstinate, without hesitation, being open and honest, it's not as bad as it sounds. I would like to paint a positive picture of living honestly with yourself and not worrying about others. In today's society, there are so many people who live in fear of failure and are always walking on eggshells, but nobody's flawless. It is exhausting to try to live your life so that no one will hate you. I started the design process from the dorm uniforms based on the original works and their worlds. I wanted the costumes to be modern while also portraying the worldview of each dorm within this school, where different countries, cultures, and time periods all exist simultaneously. I also had to be constantly aware of whether some things were too close to existing cultures or fashion brands. For every look that actually made it into the final game, I created almost 3 times as many different designs for everything. For example, for the designs for the Pomefiore dorm uniform, the more elements that were added, the wider the disconnect from the original, classic animation. It was very difficult, but eventually I settled upon using the silhouette as a starting point and reconstructing it from there, rather than focusing on individual elements. By incorporating what Japanese people consider to be classical, kimono, I was able to come up with a design reminiscent of the simple but elegant impression of the original Snow White. For Diasomnia's dorm uniform, I wanted to incorporate the relationship between Maleficent and her black-armored minion goons into the design. For that, I chose leather as something that is both classical and rigid. I also incorporated harnesses, which were trendy in the world of high fashion at the time that I was making these designs. While keeping the high fashion of the real world in mind, I also placed a lot of importance on expressing the unique culture of Twisted Wonderland itself through the clothing that appears in various events. For example, the clothes in the Harveston's Kelkkalot and Tamashina-Mina events aren't reinterpretations of existing costumes. The starting point was designing a possible clothing history based on the daylight hours and the climate of those areas. A region that is often deep in snow with short daylight hours is likely to develop a culture of embroidery, as people would spend long hours indoors. In hot climates, people might dye breathable materials such as cotton and linen, and maybe end up with something like this or that, etc. That was the thought process. That is how I design costumes based on the different textile histories and cultures of Twisted Wonderland. The costumes for some of the events took almost 2 years to complete, including constant checks and revisions. There are often times when people will spend actual money in order to acquire these costumes, so I don't want the quality to be anything less than one might expect to find at a fashionable store. A member of staff at my own studio, D6, holds professional certifications in Western-style sewing and pattern making, so everything from the backs of the costumes to how they would be worn has been designed so that they could actually be functional. Since it is a world of magic, however, fantastical and dreamlike designs are just as important as realistic ones, so sometimes we decided, this part would look too awkward if it were sewn on, so let's pretend it has been attached by magic.